The things that you have in your heart that you think are impossible are often just milestones waiting to get accomplished if you can push those limits. Everything was impossible until somebody else did it. So you can either hang around people that tell you it can be done, or hang around those that inspire possibilities. Welcome to the Inspiring Possibilities Podcast. Weekly interviews with entrepreneurs, artists, those that inspire possibilities. And I'm your host, Julian Marion. All right, well, welcome to the Inspiring Possibility Podcast. I'm with Brian Reid. Brian, welcome. And thank you so much for taking the time to be with us, man.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
That's awesome. You guys can probably see Brian, but Brian is like, has a GQ look. You can grab Brian, you can just put him in a magazine and he's just, he would just like fit perfectly, So this is who Brian is. Maybe we'll have a picture at some point so you guys can see what I mean.
Appreciate that, man. Appreciate it.
For sure. So Brian, for those that don't know you, right? Can you just give them like a little synopsis, a little summary of like who Brian is?
Okay. Turned 40 July of last year. So going on 41. I operate a heating and air conditioning business here in Dallas, Texas. Me and my wife just started a nonprofit. It's called the Next Generation of Tradesmen. So our business is heating and air conditioning, and the nonprofit is affiliated with that. What we do is we go into high schools or places wherever youth are, and we just tell them about the trades. We tell them about air conditioning, plumbing, electrical. Most kids think that college and the military is the only option. So we just want to, give them it's called a pathway to purpose. Me and my wife, we have a 10-year-old together and also have two older children, 21-year-old and an 18-year-old that's off in college.
That is awesome. I have 6 kids, but
wow.
not in the 21 range. I have, I'm going from 12 years old to 12 weeks old. So I have a 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, and, and 12-week-old. So I have a little crew, but not quite at that at 21. Yeah, I don't have an adult. I don't have an adult in this house yet. Although they all think they're adults. I'm like, listen, guys, no, none of you guys are 18. Like, just no adults here. But you can get adult responsibilities. I'm gonna need those dishes done. I'm gonna need this picked up. Like, we can dish those out.
I tell my youngest, man, enjoy being a kid. You got forever to be an adult. You're gonna be an adult, you're gonna be a kid, right?
True that. That's so true. But they're trying to grow super fast, right? So I love it. So I have so many things, right? Obviously, my wife and I, we also operate a brick and mortar business. So kind of like that place, and then we have obviously the speaking and coaching. So I know there's been so many. Just looking at them, like there would be so many ups and downs inside of kind of like that journey. Right, that is kind of like your life. I love what a nonprofit does with the trades, because I think I'm big on education is not the only route.
Yeah.
Although I do have a graduate degree, I tell that to all my kids, and even at my school, I'm like, hey, education is not the only route. Like being able to understand like what you're called to do and where you feel pulled, that is important. And there's so many different directions. In terms of like being an entrepreneur or trades. And I think like way back, trades was viewed as like, it's a non-sexy job. I'm gonna have to get, you know what I mean? Like that place, yeah. But now you've had this thing where it's just like, well, there's a lot of shortage inside of actual trade, things there. So I would love to dig into that. But to kind of get started, inside of the heating and AC business, right? Can you kind of give me a time where it didn't go well? Like it wasn't going well. And what did you do to get out of there?
Man, so my business is 8 years old. It's not a generational business, so it wasn't passed down from a father or a grandfather. Me and my wife, we started it from the ground up. We started with a paycheck, a line of credit from the credit union, and I sold a used car, right? Nice. So we didn't come into it generationally with a stacked pile of cash. But it's seasonal, right? Here in Dallas, it's about to be spring and we're about to take off. But come fall, come winter, things get kind of tight, right? So it's seasonal, but for the most part, it's been pretty consistent. It's been pretty constant. The first 2 years in, I was just hiring people. If you knew how to fix stuff, I was hiring you, right? But what I realized is that I wasn't hiring for culture. I was hiring for ability. And culture started to take a hit. I went to church one day and my pastor gave a sermon. He said, culture is built by design or default. Culture is built by design or default. And it hit home with me. It was like, why did I get into this business? It was to be a better service. The name of my company is Serveway, service the right way, right? So when my reputation was taking a hit and my pastor said that, I was like, okay, that's the problem. So we started in 2015, and in 2017, we cleaned house. The end of 17, we cleaned house. 2018, we had like 12 employees at the time, including myself. So we had like 10 employees plus me and my wife. January of 2018, it was just us two again. I jumped back in the vehicle. We created a company culture, company mission statement, and we just started rocking from there, So I would say we did a rebranding or a relaunch in 2018, and we've just been acquiring customer after customer, being able to provide better value to our community because of that.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, no, I love it. Like our business is 10 years this year.
Congrats. When I tell people 7, 8 years, they like, their eyes get big. I'm like, oh, is that a big deal? They're like, man, most businesses don't last past 8. I'm like, okay, well, thank you. We're doing something right.
Yeah, no, we did 10 years. And imagine this, right? Like 6 kids. We got married in 2009 and we had a kid in 2010. And then we started business in 2013, just like you. Like, no, it's not a business from somebody else. It's like us starting. We actually start with 2 students and 5,000 square feet, which is not the best kind of, strategy. Start with a lot of space and not a lot of students. Like that's not the, and we had kind of the same thing. I think just going through as you're growing, you understand like, hey, culture is important, because that is something that cannot be duplicated. Like whoever you're creating this thing. So I remember that like we're growing the business and people are like, man, I don't know what it is, but it's just what it feels like.
Yeah.
Right. That's culture. Like you cannot pinpoint exactly what it is, but it's like I come in and it just feels different.
You know what better is, right? And that's what you're after. You're after better.
Tell me.
Right? That better feeling.
Yeah. it's, I can't remember. I think it's, I don't know if you know the name Mike Michalowicz. So he's an author. He wrote so many different books for entrepreneurs, right? And one thing that he wrote in one of his books called Be Different, he say, everything that is great is different, but everything that is different is not great.
I like it.
Right? Because you're like, well, in order to be great, I have to be different. Like I have to be different, but I can't just be different. Different does not mean that it's going to be great. Sure. But it cannot operate the same way.
Yeah.
Right. And so that is awesome. So talk to me about working. So you say you work with your wife, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the challenge of working with spouse. I work with my wife, so I know how that is. So tell me that moment. Tell me, kind of like that dynamic. Like, how do you guys navigate this leadership push and pull? That oftentimes is just like it was what happened with it when you work with your spouse, right? Like, tell me, how do you guys navigate that to make it work? Because 8 years is still a big deal, and you guys are, still married, right? So how do you navigate that?
My wife can hold her own, man. She's a boss. My wife is the type of woman that I've prayed for since a child. When I was a kid, I was like, yo, I know I want a partner. What kind of partner do I want? I wanted someone who could take the helm of things if need be. And she's definitely that, so there's no conflict. I'm totally in alignment with who she is because she's what I've always wanted. Right. So there's no leadership conflict. We actually homeschool our 10-year-old. So, it's all inclusive, right? We lead in our church, we run our business, we run a nonprofit together, and we homeschool. The thing about if she had her career, and this is how I break it down. If she had her career and I had my career, we would meet at home, right? That's 3 different worlds. Her world, my world at work, and then our home world. Right now, it's just one world, it's all inclusive. We do life together. We do work together. We do worship together. So it kind of makes it, kind of all cohesive. It makes it make sense. There's a very little miscommunication. I knows what she's doing. She knows what I'm doing. We know what the kid doing, what our son doing, because he's not going off to school and coming back with the world. Right. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
And I tell anybody, I would rather have my wife be my partner than anybody else, because the livelihood depends on my livelihood depends on her. Her livelihood depends on me, versus me having a business partner and my livelihood depending on what's taking place in his house. Right. So yeah, man, it's been awesome the last 8 years.
And you're doing life together.
We're doing life together, right?
Right. That's why I share with people, because I was, asking like, how in the world do you do it? You have 6 kids and you guys still married and you don't look like you're dying. Like you see people just like when they've had a business and they work with, and they're entrepreneurs, like they look beat up. And I was like, you look great. You look like you're vibrant. I talk about vibrancy, not necessarily like I'm in shape, but it's like vibrancy, right? It's a different thing that your skin looks like and the energy that you get, and that comes from not being in bondage in so many aspects of your life, right? Because you do have, especially I think in entrepreneurship world, where there's so many sacrifices that happen that you can see inside of people's faces, like they've been beat up, right?
Yeah, for us, man, on a daily basis, I have to remind myself why I chose to become an entrepreneur, and it was to be of service, right? Granted, every day ain't great, every year ain't great. We're not the top in our field as far as income and marketing and promotion goes, but I still get to, considering where I come from and where I am, it's a blessing. It truly is. I got too much to be blessed for than to allow the stresses of the world, make me think less of the position that God has blessed me with.
That is awesome. So how did you guys decide to do heat and AC?
Oh man, that's a long story. I definitely don't have a business degree. I don't have any degree, I'm the kid that graduated high school with a D average, no dad in my life. Mom was a drug addict, alcoholic. I'm from Detroit originally. Bounced around from school to school, from kindergarten to the 6th grade, fell behind twice. Eventually my older sister took me in after 3 stints at the juvenile detention center. Graduated by the grace of God, like I said, with a D average. Had my first kid. So I graduated in June of 2001. I had my first son July of 2001. And I turned 19 3 days later.
Because when I said I did the math, I was just like, hold up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, his birthday July 6th, mine July 9th, right? So, it was rough, man. Got a job out of high school. Well, actually, right out of high school, man, I found myself homeless. Right out of high school. I graduated in June, came that August. Yeah, I was sleeping on my cousin's floor. The following year, I was sleeping on a college campus with a girlfriend of mine at the time because I didn't have nowhere else to go. Just bounced around from job to job. At 22, I landed a pretty decent job, man. It was the first full-time job that gave me benefits. It gave me dental, gave me vision, gave me a retirement plan. And I was like, all right, this is a step up. I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna hold on to this. Had my second child at 22. And then I met my current wife now in 2007, not 22, but 2000. At 22 in 2004, I had my second child. I met my wife now in 2007, and I was still working for the same company that I had got, the job I had got at 21. We moved down here to Texas in 2008. And, really it was just on a whim, man. It was like, hey, they opened up a plant down here. I asked them would they transfer me. They were like, sure. And it's like, we won't help you. If you can get down there, we'll give you a job. So we got down here in 2008. And in January of 2009, I was like, I need to be doing something different. So I re-enrolled in the trades program over at the junior college. Mm-hmm. So back up a little bit. My wife, when we got down here, she was going into cosmetology school, right? And I'm still working at the factory. I figured I would become a barber. She'll become a cosmetologist and we can open up a salon. So we just had that entrepreneur spirit, right?
Yeah, already, yeah.
But since the barber college wouldn't work with my schedule, I started looking for other avenues. And I didn't just want a job, right? I wanted some real skills. I wanted something that I owned, something that couldn't be taken away from me. So I looked at plumbing, I looked at electrical, but then I looked at HVAC and I said it encompasses all the trades. It's a little electrical, it's a little plumbing, yeah, right. It's a little carpentry, and it's everything. It's all inclusive. So enrolled at the community college, really, man, afraid, I sucked it in high school, right? Because it wasn't my forte. So I went in there with like, what do I got to lose? I've tried this work thing and it ain't worked. So let's see what happened with school. got in the trade program, man, and I killed it, man. 2 semesters, made the dean list, both semesters, completed the course in 2009. I got into the trade, into the field, June 2010. And I was real humble with the thing, man. I was like, you know what? Since I'm new to this, I'm gonna give it 5 years, and then I'll be able to make some real money, right? Like I gotta put my time in, right? I gotta learn in order to earn. So I was ready to grind for 5 years just to make a decent salary. But the factory job I had been there for 7 years. My highest year, my best year was $47,000. My first year from 2010 to 2011 in the trades, I did 67. And that excited me, so
Sure. It's like the 20 grand.
I was like, you know what, I'm gonna accelerate my learning, so this is when YouTube was, kind of fairly new. So I would come home after work, I would get on YouTube, I would watch guys fix stuff, break stuff, troubleshoot stuff, that way I can go back to work. And from 2010 to 2015 is when we started our business, man. So I went from just expecting to make more in 5 years to actually owning my own company in 2015. And just like, I was somewhat of an introvert before I started doing HVAC, like I can hold a conversation, but I wasn't one that was after conversation, right? But after doing HVAC and going into customers' homes, because I do residential, I was like, I actually like people. I like talking to people. Right. So I was like, I can do a better job, or if not, just as good a job as the company that I'm working for. And that's kind of what motivated me to want to do it, man, to be of service, to try and give better service in the company that I was working for.
That's awesome. And so what made you, because it takes a lot, right? It takes a lot to go from, man, I was making, my best year 47, I'm like 67, and it's I'm like, let's go, entrepreneurship. Right? Because that can be like, hey, like we just removed security. Like we removed the security net, and now we're like, hey, we're about to try this thing, and there's a little bit of an investment usually, right? For you to be able to get the truck and get the parts, to be able to get ready and service homes. So like what made you guys decide to do that? Was it like, hey, we're doing it, we still want to start a business, you're doing that, might as well, you can do the admin, I can do the actual work. And like, what made you decide to go into this roller coaster of entrepreneurship?
Oh man, it's hindsight's 2020. It's easier for me to explain that when I look back versus it was in the moment. Right. Looking back, like I said, I was the guy who, I fell behind in school 2 times. I went to, I was locked up 4 times before I graduated high school, right? And I actually graduated. That in itself to me was a big deal, because everybody ahead of me dropped out. My sister, my brother, my cousins, aunts, uncle. So there was no bar, right? There was no standard. And every year I felt like this is the year. This is the year I'm dropping out. This is the year I'm dropping out. But they kept advancing me, right? So it was, and I actually graduated. And it was little moments like those that motivated me that I could do something else. Growing up, going from house to house with my mom, one of my goals was to buy her a house, right? But I knew I wasn't going to college. So the question was, how was I going to buy that house? I eventually bought that house at 22 from my mom, right? So looking back, I can see the little bitty increments, the goals that I was setting for myself gave me the motivation to actually want to do something like start a business, right? So I think that's what it was. Those small achievements in my past that I had subconsciously stored up in my mind. Those were the things that motivated me that, hey, you did this, you did that, you did this, you could start a business. At this point,
what was that moment? So what was that moment that just like, you know what I mean? Like, I get the buildup, right? But what was that moment when you're like, 2 weeks, I'm out? You know what I mean? Like, what was that? What was that moment?
Oh man, so like I said, one of the reasons I graduated school, like I say, literally, is because everybody was dropping out, right? And I was like, I'm the last man standing. I could do this if, like, I'll be different, right? Right. It's kind of a selfish ambition, right? To be different, right? They say to be different is to be great, right? But I wanted to be different, right? So it's like, since everybody's done, here it is. I could set the standard now for everybody that's behind me. And I remember being at my old company, the last company I worked for, it was guys that were going off and starting their own business. And I was like, I'm better than that dude. I'm like if he can do it, I think I could do it, right? And I seen about 2 or 3 guys do that. And then one day I was talking to the owner of my company. Now, this is like a $50 million a year company, and I was talking to him, having a conversation with him. And, I'm not judgmental or nothing, but I'm like, man, he's running this company. I think I could run it.
Right.
So that was it, man. I was already confident in my skill set, and that's the beauty about the trades, the construction trades, is that, people just want the job done right. They want the job done right. And folks think about it. You go to a restaurant, you're going to tip based on the service, and it's a cash on hand business. Since I do residential, there's not a whole lot of good.
Yeah. Right. There's no net 30, net 60, net 90.
Right. It's cash today. When I leave your house, I got cash on hand. So I looked at all the parameters. I didn't need a lot of upfront costs. Most of the material that we use and buy, I could purchase that day, perform my work, and get paid right away. So there wasn't a lot of overhead. Quick turnaround. And it was something that I could do as a one-man job. It was like I can have a successful career as a sole proprietor, right? One-man show, or I could scale this thing and grow it. And like I said, just in my mind, based on where I came from and what I was doing, it was like, if it don't work, I can always go back and work and make $100,000, right? Like, it was literally nothing to lose. But yeah, it was that moment of just seeing other people take off and me thinking to myself, if they can do it, I can do it. And what do I have to lose if it don't work, right?
That's awesome, man. So what do you think is like a quality, kind of like a quality that makes you like that person, right? Yes, what is that quality? Because I feel like it's something that a lot of people can't get to, right? They're like, they have the thought, they know it, they can see it, like, I don't think that but I'm still not taking the action to move forward, because of whatever it is, like fear, insecurity, or people told me I can't do it, people told me this should not do that, people told me there's no security, in entrepreneurship, right? So like, what do you feel like is that quality for you that made you just take that step and, and kind of, I would say, like, you're to have a business 8 years, still look good whenever you're married and have, those kids, like, we can consider like success, right? So like, what do you think of those qualities?
I've had time to do some self-evaluation. I would say perseverance, persevering through. Like I say, I was just talking to my older brother, about 3 days ago. And I'm like, we was just shooting the breeze, and, he's 10 years older than me, right? So he's telling me about some things from my past. He's like, man, bro, I didn't think you was going to make it into this world. He's like, mom was on drugs when you were, she was doing heroin when she was pregnant with you, and I came out really bow-legged. It was bad, right? He was like, and I used to think to myself, that's because of the drugs. So the odds have been stacked against me from day one. So I'm playing with house money, kind of how I feel like, right? But perseverance, and resilience, I'm the type of guy who, before we had cell phones, I used to have a girlfriend of mine call my pager to wake me up so I can hop on the bus to go to school,
You got that network. Yeah, that network down already.
Yeah. I get up at 3. I set my alarm at 3 a.m. for 3 a.m. I get up, I do some scripture reading or a book. I'm off to the gym at 3:45. I get to the gym. I'm in there from 4 till 5. I'm back at the house finishing up some reading, and then I get my day going. So I'm a creature of habit, man. I remember being back in when I was old enough to walk myself to school from 3rd grade to 6th grade. I used to go just to get breakfast and lunch. But what I realized is just showing up, I created a pattern. I created a habit. I knew that since I had a reason to go, I knew I would be there. So I'm really a creature of habit. That's how I sustain. Even not, like I said, I'm not the brainiac dude. My skill set ain't math, reading, and writing. You know what I mean? But it's resiliency, perseverance, and patience.
That's awesome. Because I think like all those, especially when you look at the world of entrepreneurship, all those can be hired. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't fully hire discipline or resilience or perseverance. You can't hire those, but I can hire writing. I can hire somebody to organize. Like I can hire those and pay for those. And I think the biggest and that's why I always told people that I coach. I'm like, the smartest person is the one that knows that they don't know everything. Right? Once you get to that place in life that you realize that there's things that there's things that you don't know. This is where you go and you ask for help. But there are so many things that you don't even know you don't know.
You don't.
And when you get there, you're like, oh my God, what? I didn't even know that you could do a non-for-profit that does this, and there's grants that help you this, and it can pay me like this. And you're like, what is going on? This has been here. You guys knew about this? Right? Just like when you look right now at AI, people are just realizing what that was and like, hold on. People can type that fast? Like, you guys knew this? Nobody told me? How long you knew that? You know what I mean? Like, when you get to that place of like the things that you don't know, you don't know. Yeah. So smart people are the one that understand that. It's like, wow, there are so many things that I don't even know I don't know. And I have to get in rooms and places and connections with people to be exposed to those pockets of things that I don't know, because that's where all the gifts and beauty of life are. It's in that dark area that is, you didn't even know that you just need to put lights here, and here it is. So.
One of the things I believe leads to success is staying curious. It's staying, I believe that people change for one of two reasons. It's either fear or curiosity, right? It's the fear of that doctor's diagnosis. It's the fear of that judgment, his ruling, or it's curious, hey, what's on the other side of that door? What would it look like if I continued even through the hard times? Like what's the worst that could happen? You know what I mean? Like being curious. And for me, a lot of it has been curiosity. It's been curiosity that has driven me. And discipline, I was talking to my team the other day. I was doing a training. So we do Thursday coaching moments with our staff. And I looked up the word discipline. We know these words and we know how to use them. But these words, they're so rich and they're so deep with so much meat if we actually look them up. And I think I'm a very disciplined person. I thought I knew what the word meant, but it says using punishment to correct disobedience. I think we don't want to put ourselves through the punishment of what it takes to be great, right? Like we want it to be easy. We think that being successful and being happy and having the things that we want should come at no cost or should come with great ease. But to be disciplined means to go through a punishment, to go through an uncomfortable season. And, once we realize that, it's like, man, discipline comes with a cost. Success comes at a cost,
Yeah, and you have to be willing. Be willing to pay it. And sometimes like you asking the people that have paid it. Mm-hmm. What was the actual cost? Right. Because I think you and I are kind of similar in that way, right? Being like achievers and, in high level of discipline, and kind of what we want to accomplish, but also a high level of love for our family. That means that we're going to wake up earlier so that we can have also be present for our family and not be like, yeah, listen, I got to do this and I don't want to wake up at 3 or 4. So I'm going to wake up, I'm at 7 o'clock and then I'm going to work out till this time. And then I'll be available at this time, And it's like, no. I want to be there for my wife and my kids. So therefore I'm going to go earlier so I can take care of me earlier. And then I'll be present during the day for, my staff and then, for my team. And I think that's not many people go there. They're willing to sacrifice everything else and kind of just like not being willing to face the lies of like the lies that you're valuing you over God, over your family, over the rest. Like that's just the facts. But you're not willing to admit that this is your ladder right now, so that's awesome. So whenever we kind of look at this, right? So we kind of have this, HVAC business, that is growing, and you start to have influence and impact, right? Within like your staff and the team and kind of like the marketplace. And then you get to that place of, you know what? It changed my life. it could change other kids' life.
Yeah.
Right. So talk to me about that transition and that work.
So, man, really it's, when I think about this whole process, where I've come from and where I'm at right now, I remember when I was about 9 years old, my mom was away at rehabilitation center, and I was at my grandmother's house, and we had got into it. We had a verbal spat, and I ran away. No, I didn't run away. I found a bedroom in her house, and I literally just cried out to God. And my prayer was that if He made my situation different in that moment, that I would give Him. I would let children know, or children who are going through what I went through, that He did it right. So I look at where I'm at right now, and I look back to that actual moment, right? And I hit 40. I turned 40 last July, and it was almost like a switch went off. Like, you've been blessed. Like how did you get here, and why are you here? And I remembered that moment. So here I am. I feel like I've spent the last 30 plus years, and I've arrived at that moment where I made a promise to God, and all that He has done for me just has to be known that it's possible for the next generation. So literally it was 40, man. It was about 40. It was like a switch just went off, and it was like, Brian, what has He done for you? And what can you do with that? What can you do with what He's done for you? All that pain is your gain, and how are you going to pay it forward?
And that's when you guys decided to again look at what you currently have, and then just pull the trigger. So what is kind of like you guys' mission with the first of all, what is it? Path to Purpose? Is that the name of the not-for-profit?
So the acronym is NGTF, the Next Generation of Tradesmen Foundation, providing a pathway to purpose. Providing a pathway to purpose. So I kind of interchange the word purpose with the word why. When I was, everybody's talking about a why, right? You got to find your why. You got to find your why.
Right.
I feel like I had my why 30 years ago. When I was a kid, I wanted to buy my mom a house, right? So that was one of the reasons why I persevered. I got a little brother that's 5 years younger than me. Well, his birthday's today, actually. His birthday's today. He turned 36 today.
Oh, that's so cool.
He turned 36 today. He was
Aries Nation.
So while I'm bouncing around from house to house with my mom, right? He was actually in the foster system, so one of the things that I wanted to do was to be able to help him, get him out of the foster system, So when I got my first real job in my first apartment, I actually went and got him and brought him into my apartment, and then he moved to the house with me and my mom, So I've always had a why, but it's like you can give a kid a map. You can give anybody a map, which is the tools, right? Because we tell people to set some goals and try to achieve them. But what's the destination, right? If you give them tools but no purpose, what good is the tools, right? What good is a hammer if it's not used for the purpose that I need a hammer for? So we call it the pathway to purpose, because we want them to find their purpose and not just go off to college and hopefully, something stick. Hopefully they find something, right? So it's like I said, I made 67 grand my first year, not to say that everybody's going to do that, but you can easily make 50 your first year and break more stuff than you fix, right? That's so much better than going into 60 grand your first year and then having to do that 3 more years and then try to find a job. I always tell youth, you 18, 19 years old, you can get into the trades for about 3 years. And if you decide it's not for you, then you can go off to college, but in 3 years, you have enough skills to make enough income to pay for college and not take a loan out, right? And then if you find that, hey, I got 3 years of skills training, I know how to fix air conditioning, I know how to fix plumbing, but I want to be an accountant, you can go be an accountant and you can save yourself thousands of dollars on fixing your own stuff. Right?
True.
Once you realize that you don't want to be an accountant, that you make so much more money in the trades, you can start your own business now, because now you know numbers, right? But you can still get that degree, right? You can still get your degree. But the skills, I tell folks, I don't go to work, I am the work, right? they don't call me unless it's broke. So it's not working until I show up, and that's one of the freedoms that I just tell the youth about, that, hey, and you can do it at any age. You can get started at any age. So I went back to school in my mid-20s. Some of my classmates were in their 50s.
Wow.
Two of my classmates were in their 50s. Now they own their own companies and they teach at the school that we went to.
Wow.
Yeah, so like, it's unlimited potential, and that's what we try to let the children know.
Right. I think it's, and again, I mean, because again, we know with the studio that we run, we do have families that, have a little more means, so they have kind of, you can consider them like, that middle class, maybe higher middle class, somewhere in between. But the path is often the same. Like, what college we're going to. Like, it is not another way. It's just like what college we're going to, right? Because that is I don't know if this is just the mindset or is the security, the feel of security, right? Of like, hey, this is the net, right? Versus like, hey, actually, that's why I talk to people about entrepreneurship. I'm like, it's actually not as risky as you think. Whenever you work for somebody else, it's like, you don't even know if you're going to be let go next month. They already know. You don't know. You don't know. And you're planning all these things, but you don't know that next month you gone, right? Entrepreneurship, like, the pathway, the waves that are coming in, like you navigate those waves, but the trade is definitely one that is there, but that is not getting as much props or look from parents. I don't think so the kids, but parents, because parents are not willing to open that door because of either the fear of like, I don't want, maybe because it's not sexy, or maybe it's like trade, whatever trade is considered, but whatever that is, I think it comes from the parent more than it comes from the kid, because at the end of the day, the kid is just like, hey, I just want to, I just want to be happy, and I just want to make money. Like, in colleges, if you tell me college is where I need to go, okay, I'm just gonna go to college and explore, So one of the things that you said on here that I want to kind of touch on, which is talking about the why, right? And there's this, I don't know if it's fully a quote or just a little saying, but it talks about why, and it says, if you know your why, even if you lose, you win. But if you forget your why, even if you win, you lose, right? Because you start with your why, you know what it is, and you're going. But as you're going, now, like, there's different, KPIs, there's different goals, there's different things that you're doing, and that becomes a little bit different, maybe more numbers. And oftentimes people forget the reason why they started. Was it to take care of your family? Or was it to take care, meaning like, I need to be present if it is to take care of my family? But suddenly, now I'm not even there, because I'm just in this rat race, just working and working and working to accumulate, to be bigger, to accumulate. But the main reason I started is because I wanted to feed my kids and my wife and be present and go on vacation. And I can't go on vacation because I got to work. And even on vacation, I'm working. So you're forgetting the why. So it's just like, even if you win, but you forgot your why, you lose. But if you know your why and then you're not winning, you're still winning because you're still going towards that why. So I love that you said that you had that moment of like, hey, like, that's why I did it. And now I'm having this, especially as men, I think we have to go through this moment of death and rebirth as many times as possible, right? And some people is intentional. Some people is intentional, right? You lose somebody, or you get sick, or COVID happens and you die and you have to rebuild something else, and that means like physically the way I look. And that means like mentally, that means my habit. If I used to wake up at 3, now I wake up at 7 because things are changing. And I have to be okay with this death and rebirth, knowing that God is still guiding me. That's why, on Instagram, I posted that. I said, God's job is to bring people in your life at the right time.
There you go. Yeah.
He's going to bring them. You don't know. He's going to bring them. Your job is to grow those relationships.
Yeah.
Like, don't confuse the two. You have no clue who is going to come at what time. And if you can't actually go there, you can go and pursue, but it doesn't mean that you're actually going to connect. But once the relationship is there and it got presented to you for whatever the reason, then now is your time to grow that relationship. If that means that you got to change, to be able to continue to grow them, that's what you got to do. So it took me kind of like along this this journey. So
No, that's good, man. I like it. I usually have a word for myself for the year. Most people set year's resolutions. I don't necessarily do resolutions, man, because I just believe in evolution should be the natural state, right? But actually this year I had two words. One was proximity and the other one was relationships, right? And how I came to that was, like I said, I look back and I reflected and I'm like, man, you somewhat luck, right? But definitely the grace of God that I made it to where I am because, no mentors, no assistance, no guidance, no blueprint, you know what I mean? And I was like, if I can make it here, what does it look like if I get under the healthy leadership of some guys who went before me, right? So, here at 40, going on 41, a business, nonprofit, family, I'm humbled enough to like that's why I joined the academy. It's like I need to get under some guys who went before me that know more than me, so I can go to where God's called me to be. I like how you said you have to die to yourself, right? Earlier, just a second ago.
Yep. You have to die to be reborn.
Yeah, to be reborn. Today in my scripture reading this morning, I was reading through Hebrews and it was talking about the will, the will of God. And like if we are willing to give God all of us, he will do great things. It says that the individual has to die in order for the will to be acknowledged. I was like, wow. Like there's a will and a purpose on my life. So what does it look like me to die to myself, to humble myself to who I am and what I've done and come under healthy leadership, healthy authority, right? So yeah, thank you for sharing that, man, because it's definitely relevant to the path that I feel like I'm on right now.
That's awesome, man. And again, I know we're coming to the end of our time together. I really appreciate your story. I think one of the thing that I'm taking out the most is, people change because of either fear or curiosity, right? Those going to be the two things. You're going to be afraid of something, so you're going to change so that you don't get eaten or you don't die, right? Or it's because you're curious. You want to continue to explore these things that you continue to explore, you continue to move up. You're not afraid to invest in you, even if you're like, I don't know if this is the right decisions to make, but I feel like God is always putting things in my life at the right time. And it's my job to just be okay taking that leap of faith because he's never failed me, right? My story kind of the same as yours is like by grace. There's so many by grace. By grace, you're still here. By grace, it's been 10 years. By grace, you're still married. By grace, you got 6 healthy kids, right? And so there's so many of those. So I really do appreciate your story. So as we kind of say goodbye, give people like a way that they can reach out to you and any parting piece of guidance that you have, for people listening.
Yeah, man. So right now, I'm on Facebook, of course. I'm on Instagram. My Instagram is Brian K. Reid 82. The business is Serveway Heating and Air Conditioning here in the Dallas Metroplex, all the DFW, Fort Worth, Dallas, and the surrounding cities. The nonprofit is ngtf.co. But yeah, man, that's how I can be reached. And, God is good, man. He's leading the way. Like I said, I'm curious. The next phase for me in life is to stay curious to see what healthy leadership, healthy authority, healthy mentors, contacts, and relationships can do for the will that's in the calling that's on my life. And I would advise your listeners to do the same. Be curious. By the time you're afraid, it's probably too late, right? So, put on your full armor. Don't expect to play defense, play offense. Stay curious.
That's awesome. Well, Brian, thank you so much for your time today. And we'll talk soon, man.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.